So, welcome to the glorification of Srīmad Bhāgavatam. We continue with Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 13, Dhṛtarāṣṭra quits home, and we'll start with verse number 8. Om Ajnanatimrandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yenna Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So thank you again for joining. We're continuing with verse number 8, where Vidurji is nicely welcomed by Yudhishthira Maharaj and all the devotees residing in Hastinapur, all the residents of the palace. And we'll see how Yudhishthira Maharaj now starts addressing and questioning Vidurji. So text number 8. Yudhishthira Uvacha api smartano yusmat pakshat chuya sameditan vipadganad vishagnyad mochita yat samakritaha. Yudhishthira Uvacha api smartano yusmat pakshat chaya sameditan vipadganad vishagnyad mochita yat samakritaha. Word to word translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Word to word. Yudhishthir Uvacha, Maharaj Yudhishthir said, Api, whether, Smaratha, you remember? Naha, us, Yusmat, from you, Paksha, partiality towards us, like the wings of a bird, Chaya, protection, Samedhitan, we who were brought up by you, Vipadganat, from various types of calamities, Visa, Visha, by administration of poison, Agni Adeha, by setting on fire, Mochitaha, released from, Yat, what you have done, Sa, along with, Matrikaha, our mother. Does someone want to read the translation in the first paragraph of the purport, please?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Sure.
Translation. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, My uncle, do you remember how you always protected us, along with our mother, from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of a bird, saved us from poisoning and arson. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Due to Pandu's death at an early age, his minor children and widow were the object of special care by all the elderly members of the family, especially Bhishma Dev and Mahatma Vidur. Vidur was more or less partial to the Pandavas due to their political position, although Dhṛtarāṣṭra was equally careful for the minor children of Maharaj Pandu. He was one of the intriguing parties who wanted to wash away the descendants of Pandu and replace them by raising his own sons to become the rulers of the kingdom. Mahatma Vidur could follow this intrigue of Dhṛtarāṣṭra and company, and therefore, even though he was a faithful servitor of his elder brother Dhṛtarāṣṭra, he did not like his political ambition for the sake of his own sons. He was therefore very careful about the protection of the Pandavas and their widow mother. Thus he was, so to speak, partial to the Pandavas, preferring them to the sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra. Although both of them were equally affectionate in his ordinary eyes, he was equally affectionate to both the camps of nephews, in the sense that he always chastised Duryodhan for his intriguing policy against his cousins. He always criticized his elder brother for his policy of encouragement to his sons, and at the same time he was always alert in giving special protection to the Pandavas. All these different activities of Vidur within the palace politics made him well known as partial to the Pandavas. Maharaj Yudhishthir has referred to the past history of Vidur before his going away from home for a prolonged pilgrim's journey. Maharaj Yudhishthir reminded him that he was equally kind and partial to his grown-up nephews even after the battle of Kurukshetra, a great family disaster.
Thank you, Mataji. So the translation again, Maharaj Yudhishthir said, "My uncle, do you remember how you always protected us, along with our mother, from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of a bird, saved us from poisoning and arson." Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiriyet. Nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. So it's interesting how Yudhishthira Maharaj, he starts addressing Mahatma Vidur. Does someone want to read the translation of text 8, 9, 10 and 11 where Yudhishthira Maharaj is welcoming and addressing Mahatma Vidur? Verses 8, 9, 10, 11, just the translation, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I can.
Sure.
Maharaj Yudhishthir said, "My uncle, do you remember how you always protected us, along with our mother, from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of a bird, saved us from poisoning and arson. While traveling on the surface of the earth, how did you maintain your livelihood? At which holy places and pilgrimage sites did you render services? My Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into places of pilgrimage. My uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of the Lord Sri Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes?"
Thank you, Mataji. So here, first thing what Maharaj Yudhishthira is doing is, he's expressing his gratitude. He's remembering that, yes, how you protected us and protected not only us, but our mother from so many calamities. So he's expressing his gratitude, and then he's asking, okay, how was your trip? Which hotel did you stay? What did you do? And all the other questions. But then again, he ends his questioning, so to say, that have you visited Dwarka? Because Krishna was in Dwarka. And all Maharaj Yudhishthir wanted to discuss with Vidurji was, how is Krishna? Of course, we will not reveal the suspense now, but we'll see when the chapter progresses. We'll see what happens here. But suffice to say here, the Yudhishthira Maharaj is starting his welcoming and the addressing of Mahatma Vidur by expressing his gratitude of what Mahatma Vidur did in the past. So let's understand this this scenario from a broader perspective. We can see that chapter 13 to 15 actually is speaking about the occurrences immediately after Krishna left this planet. He ended his pastimes in this world. Because these pastimes, what happened is they led to the enthronement of Maharaja Parikshit. And that's why they are the part of the historical background leading into Sukdev Goswami speaking Bhagavatam to us, to, of course, Parikshit Maharaj. So Vidur was away and so was Arjun, and now they're returning. So this is the chapter covered in between, because unless they return and unless Krishna leaves and unless the Pandavas and Dhṛtarāṣṭra and all of them they leave, Parikshit cannot be enthroned, he cannot become king, and that pastime cannot start. So this is just a bit of a background of chapters 13 to 15, and then we'll see after 16 the description of Maharaj's Parikshit life is given here. Now, in this purport, we can see Prabhupada, uses very, very sweet language. Prabhupada says, although Dhṛtarāṣṭra was equally careful for the minor children of Maharaj Pandu, he was one of the intriguing parties who wanted to wash away the descendants of Pandu and replace them by raising his own sons to become the rulers of the kingdom. Wash away the descendants. And then Prabhupada says Mahatma Vidur could follow this intrigue of Dhṛtarāṣṭra and company. So it's not only Dhṛtarāṣṭra, but Dhṛtarāṣṭra, Duryodhana, Dushashan, and all of them. You could see that he was very careful about the protection of the Pandavas and Queen Kunti. So of course, then because of his attitude and because of his behavior, his partiality to the Pandavas was known to everyone. But Prabhupada makes a very interesting point here that thus he was, so to speak, partial to the Pandavas, preferring them to the sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, although both of them were equally affectionate in his ordinary eyes. So this is what a devotee does. He also follows the Lord. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamyaham mam vartma anuvartante manushya partha sarvashah. So Krishna says to Arjuna that as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. As all surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. But we of course know that naturally, Krishna is more affectionate towards his devotees. So similarly, Mahatma Vidur was also, even though Prabhupada says that he was equally affectionate to both the Pandavas and the Kauravas in his ordinary eyes, but he was still more affectionate and more partial towards the Pandavas. Now we understand that this paragraph actually covers a lot of years when the Kauravas and Pandavas were very young. They were like sort of like 3, 4, 5 years old. Then they became young adults. Then they became adults. So the whole period is covered in this paragraph. So you could see that the affection is there for the young devotees, young Pandus and Kurus. But once the Kauravas started showing the colors, once the Duryodhana started showing his own nature, then obviously Mahatma Vidur became more partial to the Pandavas. And Maharaj Yudhishthira is referring to his past history here, that yes, you were very, very partial to us. So here we can see that Mahatma Vidur was affectionate and partial towards the Pandavas. And Duryodhana, in fact, actually was also aware of Vidura's attitude, right? Because when he was plotting to kill the Pandavas, he was actually thinking, and he was mentioning to his inner core of cronies like Dusashan and Shakuni and all of them. So he used to also strategize. He said, yes, Bhishma is completely neutral, because Bhishma, he had sworn allegiance toward the throne. So he says Bhishma is completely neutral. So he says Bhishma doesn't show any preference either for us or for the Pandavas. Drona and his son Ashwathama is with us, right? Because Ashwathama is with us, Drona also, father will go along with the son, And then if Drona and Ashwathama are on our side, Kripacharya also will follow him. He says, but Vidur, even though outwardly he's showing no signs of it, outwardly he's showing equal affection to both of us, both Kauravas and Pandavas, but actually he's really on the side of the Pandavas. But then he also knew as a strategy that Vidur by himself, he could not do anything. Because if Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Ashwathama, Dushashan, Bhishma, everyone is on Kaurava's side, then what will Vidur do? And that's why Duryodhana's attitude to Vidur was a bit antagonistic. On the other side, Vidura was, favorable to Pandavas. And it was very clear that Vidura favored the Pandavas. but he also, for one specific reason, he had a much closer relationship with Yudhishthir than with others. Why? It's very obvious, because who is Vidurji? Vidurji is none other than Yamaraj himself, Dharmaraj, right? And who is Yudhishthir? He is the son of Dharmaraj. So every time, there was a chance, Vidurji will be partial towards the Pandavas, and especially towards Yudhishthir. And it's also described that there was extraordinary similarity between Vidurji and Yudhishthir. Mahatma Vidur was famed for his knowledge of dharma and right conduct. And same way, Yudhishthir also was known as very learned, very reflective, and also he always used to uphold the principles of dharma. So this way we can see that after expressing his gratitude, Prabhupada is here showing how Mahatma Vidur was more affectionate and more partial to the Pandavas, and Maharaj Yudhishthir is remembering that and is expressing his gratitude. Do you remember how you always protected us? And it is not only that Vidurji protected them once. Vidurji protected them many times. We can see that at the time of the Laksha Griha, he was protective of the Pandavas, and Prabhupada gives this the description in the next purport, in the next paragraph, sorry. So does someone want to read the next paragraph of the purport, please? Which is describing the protection of Vidur in detail.
I can continue, Prabhu.
Sure, Madhuri.
Before the battle of Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra's policy was peaceful annihilation of his nephews, and therefore he ordered Purochan to build a house at Varanavad. And when the building was finished, Dhritarashtra desired that his brother's family live there for some time. When the Pandavas were going there in the presence of all the members of the royal family, Vidur tactfully gave instructions to the Pandavas about the future plan of Dhritarashtra. This is specifically described in the Mahabharata Adi Parv 114. He indirectly hinted a weapon not made of steel or any other material element can be more than sharp to kill an enemy, and he who knows this is never killed. That is to say, he hinted that the party of the Pandavas was being sent to Varanavad to be killed, and thus he warned Yudhishthir to be very careful in their new residential palace. He also gave indications of fire and said that fire cannot extinguish the soul, but can annihilate the material body. But one who protects the soul can live. Kunti could not follow such indirect conversations between Maharaj Yudhishthir and Vidur, and thus when she inquired from her son about the purport of the conversation, Yudhishthir replied that from the talks of Vidur it was understood that there was a hint of fire in the house where they were proceeding. Later on, Vidur came in disguise to the Pandavas and informed them that the housekeeper was going to set fire to the house on the 14th night of the waning moon. It was an intrigue of Dhritarashtra that the Pandavas might die altogether with their mother, and by his warning the Pandavas escaped through a tunnel underneath the earth, so that their escape was also unknown to Dhritarashtra. So much so that after setting the fire, the Kauravas were so certain of the death of the Pandavas that Dhritarashtra performed the last rites of death with great cheerfulness. And during the mourning period, all the members of the palace became overwhelmed with lamentation. But Vidur did not become so, because of his knowledge that the Pandavas were alive somewhere. There was many such instances of calamities, and in each of them Vidur gave protection to the Pandavas on one hand, and on the other he tried to restrain his brother Dhritarashtra from such intriguing policies. Therefore he was always partial to the Pandavas, just as a bird protects its eggs by its wings. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhavi. So here, the detailed description of how, in one instance, Mahatma Vidur saved the Pandavas. We can see when we read these descriptions, we should actually go a bit deeper in our thinking and understand that what are the qualities of these wonderful devotees. Imagine you are living in the same place, and someone who's elder and someone who's senior, someone who's going to protect you, is trying to kill you. Dhṛtarāṣṭra, Prabhupada says, Dhṛtarāṣṭra's policy was peaceful annihilation of his nephews. Just imagine that. Yudhishthira knows this, and still he is giving shelter to Dhṛtarāṣṭra, Gandhari, and everyone else. So what sort of qualities do these devotees have? That someone who's trying to kill not only Yudhishthira, but all the Pandavas, including Queen Kunti. And the devotee here, Mahatma Vidur, he is following in the footsteps of his Supreme Lord Krishna. Queen Kunti says in her prayers, Vishan Mahagne Purusha, how to go? Vishan Mahagne Purushad Darshanad Asat Sabhaya Vanvasa Krishrita Mride Mride Nek Maharathastato Drauni Astratas Chasma Hare Birakshita. So Kunti Maharani, she recounts all the incidents where, in that case, Krishna saved all of them, from the poison, from the poisoned cake, from the laksha, the fire, from the Asat Sabha, where Draupadi was trying to be disrobed by Dushashan. So many incidents where Kunti Maharani is remembering that Krishna saved them. And similarly, following in the footsteps of the Lord, Vidurji, he is trying to do his duty. It's interesting, there was one story which I heard some time back. I think our dear friend Sriram Vijay Prabhu told me. He said, a devotee always, he knows, he's very expert in knowing what are the Lord's plans. And he's always trying to assist the Lord. So he told a story that one time a sadhu was going in a boat and they were trying to cross the river, and suddenly a big storm started to come. And when the storm was coming, it was raining and the river was going wild, and the boat was also trying to tip, and water was coming in the boat. So what this sadhu, everyone is panicking. Sadhu is, what he's doing with his lota, he's trying to take water from the river and is putting in the boat. Rather than taking the water out of the boat, he's putting from the river in the boat. And everyone is panicking, but they're still watching him. And the sadhu is very quiet, he's calm. After some time, the storm subsides, the river subsides, and the boatman keeps rowing the boat, and there's still water in the boat, and the sadhu takes the water from the boat and he starts putting in the river with the same lota. And everyone is intrigued. So one person asks him that, Sadhu, Mahatma, what are you doing? When we were in danger, you were trying to put water from the river in the boat. And when we are safe now, you are putting the water from the boat in the river. So Sadhu said, all I am doing is just helping my Lord. When I saw that he's trying to, destroy the boat or submerge the boat in the water, I was trying to help him by putting water from the river on the boat. And now when I know that the Lord wants to save the boat, so I'm trying to save the boat by putting water out of the boat from the river. So this is the job of a devotee. That a devotee always tries to do what the Lord wants him to. So we can see here that in the qualities of a devotee is that Yudhishthira Maharaj knows very well that the same personality who tried to kill me not once, not twice, many times, but now he needs a shelter. And we'll see that Yudhishthira Maharaj is not only giving him shelter, he's actually taking advice sometimes from Dhṛtarāṣṭra. We saw that earlier. And in the palace, Mahabharata describes that all the residents of the palace were giving full respect to both Dhṛtarāṣṭra and Gandhari except Bhima. Bhima still was not able to control his anger. And what Bhima will do is he will, when Dhṛtarāṣṭra could hear him, Bhima will, just try to ridicule him or insult him and like that. But Dhṛtarāṣṭra had no choice. And, he was just like, just tolerating all the insults by Bhima, and he was just living there. And then this is the same situation which Vidurji then later on, he recounts the status of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, and then he tells Dhṛtarāṣṭra that you are living a life, you think you're living a very good life here, Yudhishthira is sheltering you, but you're living a life of a dog. Someone who you tried to kill, he is now giving you shelter. But as far as devotees are concerned, as far as Mahatma Vidur is concerned, he's just trying to, follow his dharma, and he's trying to save the Pandavas. In the 5th canto, there's a very nice verse which describes how when we are trying to follow devotional service, when I try to, do devotional service for the Lord, all the qualities, all the godly qualities automatically come. And if we are not devotees, whatever other qualities we are having, they're of no use. And there's a science behind it. It's not that, this is whimsical. No, there's science behind it, that when one becomes a devotee, when one does introspection, and as far as devotees are concerned, as far as we are concerned, we also should be introspecting regularly to see whether all these godly qualities are coming, whether all the, anarthas are leaving us. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunays tatra samasate sura harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manorathena shati davato bhahi. So it's described that, yes, one who's a devotee, automatically all the exalted qualities like knowledge, renunciation, religion, they come into his body. Whose body? One who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Lord. Akinchana, without any motive. He does devotional service without any motive to Krishna. But on the other hand, Harava Bhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna says, on the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and is engaged in material activities has no good qualities. So even if he has all the good qualities, someone who is not engaged in devotional service, he is not having any of the good qualities. Why? Manorathena sati dhavato bhahi. He says, why? Because he is driven by his own mental speculations. And because he is driven by his own mental speculations, he must be engaged in the service of Lord's external energy. Lord's external energy, Maya Devi. So then how can there be any good qualities in such a man? So devotees like Mahatma Vidur, Haridas Thakur very nicely, he describes in Harinam Chintamani. He says, he quotes the 11th canto where Lord Krishna is explaining to Uddhavji, the qualities of a Vaishnava, qualities of a Sadhu. And as we know, there are 26 qualities given, starting from Dayalu. The most important qualities, he is merciful, he is compassionate, Dayalu. Then it says, of course, Saishnu, he is Sama, he doesn't, Satyasara, he is truthful, he is always Vishuddha, he is always, pure. So many of these qualities are given. But Haridas Thakur, when he's describing these qualities to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Mahaprabhu is asking him, he says that a sadhu is known by all these characteristics. And there are mainly two types of characteristics, principal and marginal. Now, interestingly, the principal characteristics is only one, exclusive surrender to Krishna. And while all the other qualities are dependent on this quality. So there are other marginal qualities. But when we have exclusive surrender to Krishna, when we are exclusively surrendered to Krishna, when our life is given to the service of Krishna, all the other qualities automatically come. So the principal quality of a sadhu is, he is exclusively surrendered to Krishna. And by being exclusively surrendered to Krishna, all the other qualities which are dependent on this quality are automatically manifested in this personality. So we see here both in Maharaj Yudhishthir and in Mahatma Vidur, the exclusive surrender to Krishna is there. And that's why all the other qualities are manifested. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Dhṛtarāṣṭra Srīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If anyone has any questions, meditations, reflections, queries, please unmute and share.
Thank you, Prabhu. The boat story was very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhavi. We hear and we repeat. It's a nice story where we have to develop that intelligence as to what are the Lord's plans. Sometimes when we don't have that intelligence, we act counteractively. So we have to be a bit careful about that also. Any other questions or comments? Anyone? All right. So thank you very much for joining. Dhṛtarāṣṭra Srīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll continue Krishna willing tomorrow at 6:30, and you have a very, very wonderful Christmas day, but thinking of Krishna. Merry Krishna to everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Sakira Das Prabhu ki
Hare Krishna.